Hi, I'm Bart Herbison, Executive Director of the Nashville Songwriters Association. And this week, the story behind a song that almost wasn't for a lot of different reasons, but an amazing song, a very important song in Faith Hill's career, Wild One. Welcome Will Rambeaux, Pat Bunch, and Jaime Kyle. But let's start with, do you remember the day y'all wrote this?
Well, it was written in two segments.
Okay.
One, conversation I had with Pat. I had a record deal, and we were writing for me, and I was talking about how I like to stay out late, but I wasn't doing anything wrong. But everybody thinks if you're staying out late, you've got to be doing something wrong. And
Wild One.
Exactly. So, and that was the conversation. So the song started out as like, she's a rebel or something like that, and Pat took it and wrote these incredible verses, and I was writing in Bill Lloyd's attic on a keyboard, writing the song on keyboard. That's where it came from. It's a keyboard, not a guitar song. And then Will came up. I'd already gotten the melody to the verses, and Will came up and started throwing out ideas, and so then we finished it up together.
Did you get the hook that day, Pat? Wild One? Because did you say you wrote this in 2 sessions? Or?
Right.
I didn't write that. Jamie asked me to write a song called She's a Rebel. So I had done a lyric, which was really hard because it took 3 weeks to bring that first verse to life, let me tell you. And not overnight. And so, but I had called it She's a Rebel. Well, Jamie was trying to put it together, and she wasn't coming to life. And Will came in, and they were talking about it, and Jamie said, well, she's a wild one. And Will said, that's it, wild one, okay? So, and I just would like to add for the songwriters that there was something I wanted to get in there that I did. I read it in a book, and it said, if you learn that life is hard, the road less traveled, it said, if you learn life is hard, and then it's easy then, once you know it's hard. Mm-hmm. And I got that line in it. She said, life is hard. They said, life is hard. She said, that's all right.
She wrote the most amazing verses to that song. I mean, they're just spot
What about the
on.
melody, Will? Was it sort of, when you got involved, was it there?
Well, when I came in, they were calling it She's a Rebel. Mm-hmm. And I liked that, but I remember there was a song in the early 60s called He's a Rebel, by one of those girl groups. And I said, well, she probably should stay away from that. What I remember is that there was a poster on the wall of an old Marlon Brando movie in the attic of the house she's talking about. Bill Lloyd and I were living together, and it was a Marlon Brando movie called Wild One. It was about a motorcycle gang in a small town, and so that seemed to be a better fit, easier to sing that than the other title, and we went away and put together that chorus.
Well, I wrote the melody, all the melody and everything, and we co-wrote the lyrics, and the Wild One thing came out of me not doing anything wrong, and our conversation of
So
that.
the wild girl that's not really wild inspires it. This is the verse creator. Will sees the poster, and that's how the song is born. But it almost never happened.
Right.
Because the respective powers that be, the publishers in the music industry, didn't think it was a hit. They didn't think it was a hit, right, Pat?
That's what I hear.
So I played it for my publisher because we were writing it for me, and he threw it down the hall and said, I'm not going to spend any money on this song. And we're just like, wow, I've never in my life gotten a response like that, nor do I know anyone else who has. And then later on, Will resurrected it.
What happened?
Well, we, like Jamie was saying, we were writing it for her rock project. She had a deal out west on the West Coast in L.A. with Atco Atlantic, one of the great rock and roll labels out there, AC/DC, the Rembrandts, all these great rock acts.
New York.
And we were writing for her project, and this song we thought was going to be. We thought of it originally as a rock song, as kind of a Springsteen style song for a female artist, but it never quite made it into her project. It might have been a little too country for what she was doing herself. And the thing sat on the shelf for 7 years. 7 years, because it wasn't quite right for her project, and because of all of that mess at the beginning with the publishing company, and the song it never actually got copywritten because of that incident she was talking about. And that's a whole other story we'll get to later.
Right.
But after all those years, I remember putting together a country demo session, and I was going over songs, and I remember coming across that one saying, dang, I really like that song. I've always liked that song. That's a really cool song. And I played it for the girl who was singing the demo session, a lady named Angela Huffman, great singer from West Virginia. She loved the song, and I said, heck, because I was with Jamie, and I said, let's do it. Let's do it. Finally, for real, let's do it. And we went in and cut the fire out of the song at County Q, which is a demo studio in Berry Hill, and the song got cut like 3 times that summer, and was on hold.
Who all cut that
Every
song?
label in town.
I don't even
Evangeline cut it.
Zacca Creek.
Zacca Creek, right?
remember. They put it on hold for Lori White.
Lori
They
White.
said, well, she doesn't have a hit now, and if she cuts this, she'll have one.
Right.
She wouldn't cut
But
it.
everybody loves it.
Everybody loved it, and there were 4 or 5
And then
more,
finally
so-
got cut by this little secretary on Music Row that nobody had any faith in by the name of Faith Hill.
And they called us to change the lyrics, some of the lyrics also, and because they said about
Satan. Faith didn't want to sing Satan's tongue. And I tried. I said, Scott, I can't think of anything else to bring that thing to life. He says, well, I think I can talk her into it.
the line is she loves rock and roll. They say it's Satan's tongue.
Right.
And
So
to this day, people come up to me, I don't know about you guys, and say, I love that song. You know what my favorite line is? She's wrong. They said it's Satan's tongue. It's the very line that they were afraid to.
Well, and there's another whole thing, briefly. It didn't win an award because there was sort of a frivolous lawsuit against the song.
Exactly.
The publishers were kind of in the process of settling it. Y'all got involved, the songwriters. You particularly forced your way through the company. You went and found the work tape from when you wrote it
Right.
up in the attic, and
And
the suit
Will
is
had
dismissed.
sung it before for Charlie Feldman.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of saved us in the long run. Jamie and I had gone to visit Charlie. He had just gotten a job at BMI in New York, and we went up for the new music seminar. It was called back then in New York. And we sat in the hotel room across the bed from Charlie and played him this song we had just written called
Right.
Wild
So you
One.
got a witness.
And he,
Right.
I remember him thinking, man, that's great, that's a hit. So 7-8 years later, after the song has come out and been a hit, and we found out about the lawsuit, I called Charlie and I said, Charlie, do you remember that song we wrote, Wild? And he said, yeah, that Faith Hill just made it. Well, great. He said, what's going on? And I said, we are in the middle of this terrible lawsuit, and I don't know, I'm just fishing here. Is there any way you might be able to help us? And he said, you know what, Will, I keep the best daytimers in the world. And he went back through his daytimers, and he found
Wow.
January 1987, I
Right,
think
right.
it was, Will and Jamie came to
Business
visit me.
people, leave it to the songwriters. America's smallest small business.
Played me a song, Wild One, it's a hit. And so he went to bat for us.
Well, that's a fascinating story on many levels about this song. I got to tell you that I go to some club and there's a cover band or there's karaoke. I think it's as popular as it ever was. This song just, musically, I think it was a little ahead of its time, and certainly it was seminal in Faith's career. So that's the story behind the song this week for the Tennessean and Tennessean.com. Pat Bunch, Will Rambeaux, Jamie Kyle. Let's hear a little bit of Wild One. 1, 2, 3.
They said change your clothes. She said no, I won't. They said comb your hair. She said